Mr. Burden, I take it is your view that any state-owned enterprise investment from China should be barred at the moment. There should be a moratorium on any investment whatsoever.
Yes, I mean, I'm saying, even enterprises that may not identify as Chinese state enterprises, and I mentioned the Huawei company. I mean,
state-owned or affiliated. I understood
yes,
that.
That would be my position.
How does that view square with the 2012 agreement that the previous conservative government signed under Stephen Harper, the Foreign Investment Promotion and Protection Agreement with China, which presumably said 8 years ago that we're open for business?
Yes, I mean, this is a cause for concern whether the government of China would engage in legal action against the government of Canada if we decide to restrict Chinese state investment in Canada. I believe that is a possibility, a strong possibility.
To C.D. Howe, you indicated in your comments that the policy statement from the Investment Review Division of ISED was sensible, I think. And is it your view then that we expand upon that policy statement by way of guidelines that expand and provide greater detail?
That's correct. Yes, to give more specificity to the guidelines, which may also include being more welcoming. Right now, the guidelines, I believe, or the statement rather, mentions food security and medical, and that's quite understandable. But it also leaves the door open to more scrutiny, pretty much of anything under the national security guise. Now, I agree that national security is the right lens, and we should define it, and that should include strategic industries, but we should be more specific about what we mean by that. And that's the gist of my comments. And also, if I may, we shouldn't necessarily leave this to national security specialists. Now I'm going to, in other words, national security specialists should also, that really do often prevail in these kind of arguments, rightly so, they're the specialists, but, they should explain what kind of mitigation measures a foreign investor might propose to the governments or might be willing to undertake to make sure that any national security risk is mitigated. So, that's what I meant. Can we be more specific and open while, upgrading, if you like, our ability to protect the Canadian economy?
And for those who have not turned their minds to that policy statement, the government has, as of mid-April, stated very explicitly, all state-owned enterprises or private investors assessed as being closely tied or subject to direction from foreign governments will be subject to enhanced scrutiny under the Act. And I take your point, though. It may well be a recommendation from this committee that there ought to be greater specificity, and we could expand upon those general principles. But I take it you think the government's on the right track on that front.
Well, yeah, for sure. And I think it was mentioned that other countries are on that track as well. But they are being more specific, and we're not. And that's why a lot of my comments are about, well, can we be clear about what we mean?
That makes sense. Now, in some ways, enhanced trade makes a good deal of sense. It's been brought to my attention, we don't have a significant solar industry here in Canada, but we do have businesses that want to be a part of solar installations, including one of the biggest solar installations in Alberta. We have a tariff, though, on solar panels from China that undermines some of those Canadian efforts to undertake these big installations. You've previously said it would be a big mistake not to engage further with China. Mr. Schwanen, would you support eliminating tariffs along those lines?
I would support anything that sustains Canadian industry and cleaner energy in particular. So to the extent that these high tariffs prevent the development of that industry, absolutely, I would support reducing or eliminating tariffs more generally speaking, yes.
And my last question for you, Mr. Schwanen, and this it's difficult because obviously we know that China is one of Canada's largest trading partners. It is inevitable given the size of China's economy. But when we see not only human rights violations, which a number of countries violate human rights, and it's a challenge to police all of those efforts through trade, but when we see China's willingness to use our economic reliance and trading relationship to punish Canada for following the rule of law and arresting Huawei CFO, and we see them kidnap and mistreat Canadian citizens. How are we to respond to that?
All I would say is that we're not here to make China any favors. We shouldn't. We especially shouldn't at this time. But that some exchanges, some investments even, might still be in the interest of both, and we should cautiously pursue those while restricting others. Absolutely.
Thanks very much.